Hello everyone, welcome back to my podcast. How are you today? I feel quite alright. The weather is not bad currently. Well, maybe it could be a bit hotter because it's almost June, but I'm not going to complain. And again, I am so happy because your response to my last grammar episode was positive. So as always, I want to start the episode with thanking you. So thanks, and I will continue making such episodes, but only from time to time. I even have a cool idea for the next grammar episode, but for now it's a secret. So you have to wait patiently. Okay. Today, I'm coming to you with something that is extremely interesting to me. I was happy to do some research to confirm what I already know and to refresh my memory in this matter. And now I want to relay this knowledge to you. The knowledge about a very broad and complex topic, which today I will just introduce to you. And if you get interested by it, and this episode is not enough, then there is plenty of materials about our today's topic, so I will be happy to help you in finding them. Okay, but what is it? What is it? So it is about the fact that one person might have different personalities. And I'm not talking about personality disorder in psychiatry, okay? I'm talking about people who are relatively mentally healthy, but who uncover their different personality traits while speaking another language. Yes, exactly. People who speak more than one language fluently, so they are either bilingual or they know the second language almost perfectly, have somehow different personalities depending on the language they are speaking in a given moment. And it's nothing I figured out by myself, of course. It's also an interesting topic for scientists who started to explore this topic in 1964. Susan Irvin from the University of California decided to test the bilinguals and how they tell the same story in two languages. As you may figure out, she discovered major differences. So bilingual people behave, speak, and think differently in different languages. I can only confirm that actually I noticed that I have a split personality. It sounds serious, but a bit split personality depending on the language I use. So it actually must be true. So let's conduct a small and totally unofficial experiment. If you speak more than one language, which is your native language, answer to the following questions that I based on behaviors I noticed in me. And one more thing, all of the official experiments and researchers talk about bilinguals or speakers who know both languages very good. But I personally think, and this is my personal opinion, I think that people who know a second language, not so perfectly, but they somehow feel it and feel the culture of its country, might also show different traits of personalities, at least to some extent. So now the experiment and the questions. Number 1. Do you feel differently when you use different languages? Number 2. Is it easier for you to talk about difficult things in one language only? Or maybe you speak about one topic in two different ways depending on the language. Number 3, do you think in the same way about different concepts, for example, directions or sense of movement in both languages you speak? Number 4, have you noticed that you are more relaxed in one language and maybe more aggressive or just more energized in another one? Number 5, do you keep the same position when you speak in both languages? Meaning, do you gesture the same? Do you keep your body in the same position? Do you smile the same? And number 6, is it easier for you to find right words in only one language, or it doesn't matter? For example, when you talk about feelings and emotions. Okay, so I will give you a moment here so that you can analyze yourselves. And now I will tell you a surprising discovery. So in early 2000s, two linguists, Aneta Pavlenko and Jean-Marc Deval, asked over 1,000 bilinguals whether they feel like a different person when they speak different languages. And about 65% of them said they did. The psycholinguist, who I already mentioned, Susan Irvin, so she discovered that bilingual people answer differently to the same question. So, you are asked exactly the same question in both languages, but you answered in different ways depending on the language. A researcher, Michael Coven, also discovered some differences in bilingual people's behavior. They were supposed to tell him about their experiences and lives, and they did it differently in both languages, French and Portuguese in this case. So I don't want to bore you with any scientific data or complicated experiments, because you can find more detailed and precise articles or theses on the internet easily. So I will tell you one more small but surprising fact, which is taken from a TED Talk delivered by Lera Boroditsky. As you probably already figured out, it is the language and actually culture that shape the way we think. So what you might perceive as a left side of the room and the right side of the room won't be understandable for an Aboriginal community. They perceive directions as cardinal directions. So there is an east side of the room and the west side of the room. The same happens with how they perceive time. There is no horizontal time axis, that we have old events on the left and new events on the right. They perceive time from east to west. I recommend you to watch the entire TED Talk because it's very interesting and very mind-blowing for people who live according to our European culture, for example. However, now that I'm thinking about it, in Spain, or at least in Galicia, people also perceive directions a bit differently. I'm not sure if it applies to the entire country, so let me focus only on the region of Galicia. So it's a very mountainous terrain with the ocean at the bottom. Exactly. People who live in a house on a hill can see the ocean at the bottom. Also, the lower you walk, the closer to the city center you are. So if you are on a hill and ask somebody for directions, how can I get to the museum in the center? People will tell you that you need to go down, not straight and turn left. No, you need to go down. Isn't it fascinating? Is it? Okay, but of course, there are many examples, as many as languages in the world. So let me finish this episode with an explanation. Why do people have different personalities in different languages? So first of all, I already mentioned culture. So every culture perceives the word differently and uses language differently. So I think that's the most obvious explanation. Secondly, the languages are constructed differently. So every language has different grammatical rules, different background of vocabulary, different parts of speech and structure. So it's not a surprise that we perceive the world differently in every language. We need to adjust our thought to the rules in a language. That's why we come up with different ideas and concepts. The next reason is the background. So apart from the culture, our background and the way how we were taught languages are important because we people are influenced by other people, events, words, and so on and so on. We learn our mother tongue from our parents, and at the same time, we take over our parents' traits, their culture, the way they perceive some things. The same with other languages. We learn from other people, not only the language, but also we borrow a little bit of their environment and culture again. Fourth possibility. Vocabulary or language constructions are friendlier in one language than in the other one. So it's easier and more comfortable for us to speak about difficult matters like feelings, politics, or philosophy, depending on the language and its constructions or its vocabulary. And for the end of this episode, I will share with you my very personal and probably very overinterpreted view on one of the best movies I've seen, The Arrival. So if you haven't watched it, turn off this episode right now because I don't want to make any spoilers to anyone. So goodbye, thank you for listening. And those of you who has already watched the movie, and well, if you appreciate it as much as I do. So here is my explanation of the ending. So it is believed that when we know other cultures and languages apart from our own, we don't only behave differently, but also we perceive world in a different way. We are somehow shown different approaches, different possibilities. We see and understand more about our world. So when I watched The Arrival, I fell in love with the movie because it's a sci-fi movie with a linguist as a main character. A linguist. Amazing! For once, somebody has thought about humanists. So anyway, at the end of the movie, a linguist, played by Amy Adams, finally knows how to speak with the aliens, and she understands the language and she sees the future. Okay? And some people may think, OMG, it's so surrealistic that she has a vision. But I believe that she learned the alien language. And it wasn't a vision, but the part of the language. Seeing the future was another aspect of speaking their language. Do you get me? Is it too much? Should I finish? Okay, so let's finish then. But before we finish officially, I will tell you what your homework is. So I would be very happy if you could send me answers to the questions I asked at the beginning of the episode. And if you don't speak a second language very well and you don't really feel, this difference in your behavior in a different language, just let me know if this topic is interesting for you. Did you find it amusing, mind-blowing? I will be happy to read your opinions, and to encourage you, as always, I will answer to those questions by myself for the very end of the episode. Okay. Do you feel differently when you use different language? Yes, I do. I feel completely differently when I speak English, when I speak Polish, and when I speak Spanish. So in Polish, I'm boring, and I cannot talk about many things. And in English, I think I'm more, maybe not more professional, but I feel that I sound a bit wiser than in Polish. And in Spanish, it is much easier for me to be very cheerful, and it's easy for me to talk about emotions and feelings and to be more open. Is it easy for you to talk about difficult things in one language? Yeah, definitely. It's easy for me to talk about this, I think, in English and in Polish, not in Spanish. In Spanish, it's I have this barrier still, a little bit of a barrier in finding the correct words. So it's not about, feeling differently in this language. It's just the lack of enough skills. Number 3, do you think in the same way about different concepts like directions and so on? Yes, I do. As I mentioned, in Spain is completely different, and because I was there for a longer period of time, when I think about directions in Spanish, then yeah, I think differently, definitely. Have you noticed that you are more relaxed in one language? So yeah, I mentioned already, I feel that I'm more energized and happier in Spanish. In English, I think I'm more patient with people. This is weird, because in Polish, I'm very impatient. But if it goes about English, I have a lot of patience with people. And I think I'm nicer. I'm sorry, my Polish colleagues and friends. And is it easy for you to find right words in only one language, or it doesn't matter? So if it goes about emotions, I think it's easy for me to talk about it in Spanish. And a very interesting thing, because I talked about this with my friend, and she also says that it's easier for her to talk about emotions and feelings in English. So she thinks that's because she has to somehow convert those emotions from one language to another, and it gives her the perspective. So it's easy for her to talk about difficult things in English, not in Polish. So here you go. These are my answers. So that's it. Have a wonderful day, evening, week, or weekend. See you next time. Bye bye.